Hello there. As early as 8 years, young girls these days often ask questions about changes in their body system. Would you be prepared for it if your daughter confronts you with that question? In a world that is fast becoming indoctrinated by sexual education ideas from social media, parents would need to brace up for the increasing challenges of raising children. Because answering these questions and helping parents, especially fathers, is what our guest today on Total Woman sets out to do. My guest is an accomplished brand manager, insurance license agent, and personal banker with close to 2 decades in the sales and financial sector. The administrative and managerial skills she acquired while in sales helped to shape her role as co-founder and chief executive officer of Sanical, a publishing firm that produced the book Period Passport. The Period Passport is a self-help guide to understanding all there is to know about periods, answers the core question pertinent in young minds, such as the mystery behind menstruation. Yes, the book is also about standing against the common paradox and quits the stereotype mindset on the controversial topic surrounding adolescent girls and their concerns for and about menstruation and care tips. My guest is no other than Rosianne Stewart. Thank you for joining us on the program today, Total Woman. Thank you very much.
Hello, how are you? Thank you for inviting me.
So let me start. Interestingly, from sales and banking and insurance publishing, how is it for was it for you to make that switch from core to arts?
Well, I've always been into art, but this book especially needed to be published to get out to dads, really anyone that is interested in that subject or needs to learn about that subject. So that's why I wanted to get that book out.
Wow. So are you still doing your insurance things or you're strictly in publishing now?
I'm still in banking. I'm still in banking. So I think that and branching out in different avenues is a good way to kind of get a full view of everything that needs to that you need to put into certain situations. And I think this one, my experience in banking and insurance also helped with publishing this book.
Pretty interesting. So some of the mistakes people make when it comes to insuring whatever material or contents, it's easy for you to do that because you've been in the industry of sales and of course insurance.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. So let's look at the book, uh, Period Passports. What inspired that book? Why talk about period? What influenced you writing it?
I'm not actually the author. I am just the publisher of the book. My husband actually, Chase Inibedion, he's the one that actually wrote the book with a really good friend of ours, Utunde. So he's been in that sector for a long time, over 10 years, dealing with menstruation and period poverty. Writing this book was, I think, a pivotal time for him to be able to get that information out for different stories around the world of women that are dealing with that and some of the things that they have to go through to actually just go through an essential part of life that without necessities, pads or tampons, things like that, that I myself would have thought of as just a regular everyday thing. Now, girls don't have that access to that. So that's one of the, we wanted to get that book out so people are able to get that information. And also it has some instructional ideas in there for dads to talk to their daughters about it. I think getting men interested in menstruation is an important role that needs to get played.
Okay, so because it's a very sensitive subject, especially for fathers, talking about menstruation, talking about period with their girls. Now, being in this space where these issues are looked into, from your observation, how difficult or how easy it is for fathers to be in that space with their girls?
It's a really awkward space. Even growing up talking to my dad about menstruation, it's an awkward conversation. It's kind of like, why? But especially if you're younger and that is your only parent that you have, that's a must-have conversation because that also deals with your health. It deals with your well-being because that's something you have to go through for the rest of your life. I mean, up to 50 years old, almost. So it's the starting point has to be essential. It's crucial. So having that conversation, if you're the only parent in the home, is necessary. And it's awkward, but that's one of the things that we want to bridge the gap with is having that conversation and making it a little bit easier and nicer flow.
Okay, let's talk about you. Take your mind back. Yes. Now it's you find girls as early as 8, 9 years, menstruating. Let's take your mind, go back memory lane with you. How easy was it? Who taught you about menstruation? Who spoke to you about these things? How easy was it for you to interact with your parents, about that subject?
I was actually fortunate enough to have my mom when I first got my period. So she was the one that told me about that. But my parents did divorce when I was younger or separate. So I stayed with my dad for a little while by myself. So he had to deal with the whole period issue of getting me products and things like that, dealing with overflow nights, messy sheets, all that stuff. So, and again, the physical aspect of it, if you're a single parent, you have to deal with that. So, um, it was awkward. It was a tough situation. It was embarrassing. So then again, that's what we want to bridge that gap to make it.
Now, is it embarrassing to you or to your father? Who is in this embarrassment space we're talking about? Is it the girl who would, talk with the father, or the father who would have no choice than to deal with it? Who is really embarrassed in this menstrual space?
Actually, it's essentially both. Because if you think about the sex talk, the child does not want to hear about it from the parent. The parent doesn't want to talk about it with the child. I think it's pretty much kind of the same thing. I don't know. It's, in our society, it's become such a taboo subject, like a messy subject. So, I mean, even in my life, like just going out in public or at work, I don't talk about it with our male counterparts. I would with my female counterparts because they understand what I'm going through. So I think it's that that camaraderie, that conversation that needs to happen, and we want to make that conversation a lot more.
So, why do we need to make that conversation happen? How important is it for us to have this conversation with fathers, parenting young adolescent female?
Well, I actually I read a story the other day, and it was a brother of a friend of a girl that took her to a ballet lesson, and she got her first period in his car. He noticed that, but he didn't take responsibility for it. So he just dropped her off at the ballet thing, and she had to deal with that on her own. That's not that's not okay. So as a father, is that something that you would be able to do? Just find another woman to go take care of it? No, that's your responsibility, essentially. As a man, we want to put men back into menstruation. A lot of men are the ones that are um, responsible for the production even of menstrual supplies. They run the companies for these. They they're essentially your brother, your mother, I'm sorry, your brother, your father, they're there. So they just need to be involved in in that conversation. And as a young girl, I really just think that having both parents, and even if it's just the one parent, involved in your life in all aspects is necessary, especially when it comes to your health again. If something happens, you want to be able to talk to your parent about that.
That brings me to the taboo and all the myth surrounding menstruation. I'm sure you've had to deal with some of the misconceptions. So let's try and identify some of the misconceptions or taboos or myths surrounding the whole talk about my menstruation period for girls.
A lot of the different things that I've heard lately is that you're not supposed to touch food if someone is menstruating. If they cooked it and they were menstruated. I'm like, what? Um, you're they have women that are stooping outside, and that's how they're getting rid of blood. You have women that are girls that are using leaves and unsanitary napkins and shirts and things like that, which can lead to infection. They're using that instead of what's needed, like actual clean sanitary pads and napkins or tampons or cups that they can use to help with that. So helping to bridge the gap between those taboos, I think is necessary. So people aren't thinking that if I'm cooking food and I'm menstruating, I can't eat that food. That's wasted food, and that's not even good either. So
I guess everybody will go hungry for those 4 or 5 days or 6 days. All right, I'll take a short break. When I come back, we'll look at at what age do we start talking about these issues, especially with the male folk? At what age should we start talking about it? And how do we get young boys, from your story, to begin to take responsibility, for their sisters, for other girls, for women who are going through this process? All right, so I'll be right back. Please don't go anywhere.
AD4 TV Radio, with focus on education with emphasis on research and innovation, science and technology, women and girl child education, children, health, youth and sports, socio-political and economic reforms, security, environment, entrepreneurship, and entertainment. Will give you information at your fingertips. Learn on the go. Follow AD4 TV Radio on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. AD4 TV Radio, reliable and credible.
We love you, AD4 TV Radio.
Welcome back. El State Total Woman on AD4 TV Radio. My name is Mute Olori, and I'm having this amazing conversation, very interesting conversation with my guest, Roseanne Stewart, who is the co-founder and, of course, publisher of the book Period Passports. And we'll be talking about all the myths surrounding the issues of menstruation and how we can get fathers to begin to have this conversation with their girls. I mean, we have today a lot of fathers who are single parenting. How do they deal with this issue? My guests identified the fact that sometimes some would say, I have to get another woman into the lives of our daughters. But you have to, because you're the parent. And for every girl, you're the first security. So how do we bring this conversation up? And that's what we'll be talking about. So period passport, how is it going to bridge this gap, and what method is it using to bring the conversation into the space so that fathers can begin to have this moment with their daughters and be in their lives, while they're going through the menstrual period? Because Of course, you're going, as a young girl, you leave your father, you're going to go to your husband, and it continues. It's a circle that never stops. So, how is the period passports trying to, what method are they using to try to bridge that gap?
So we have it currently available on different platforms that you're able to get it on: Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, bookstores. So we are also trying to get it also into the hands of different NGOs and in the curriculum. So it being something that is you can read to with your daughter or even by yourself, so you can get that knowledge and then have that conversation with them is essential, I think. So you're able to kind of figure out different methods that you can speak with them, how you can speak with them about the situation. Um, so really, we're trying to just get that into different avenues, make it accessible to dads and anyone interested in menstrual periods.
So, just take a preview into the book. How should a father begin this conversation with the daughter that eliminates the embarrassment we're talking about?
First it depends on the relationship. So it kind of different avenues that you would take on that. So and then you just want to make sure that the environment is a comfortable one. The conversation, while it's still going to be awkward, is something that's a back and forth that they're able to ask questions, or even just leave it. I'm open to listening to you. If something happens, you can come to me, or even that simple is okay, just to make sure that they know that you're available is one thing. If you're gonna have like a whole sit down and we're gonna have this talk, you can do that too, but you just want to make sure the environment is okay. The atmosphere is not one of judgment or anything like that, that they're not feeling like something is wrong. I did something.
While growing up, I had this in my environment. It's like once you're younger, like you start having your period, everybody talks about pregnancy as the next thing. Nobody focuses on hygiene, on the health, part of it. How can young people begin to, young boys, at what age should we get them involved, and how can they be responsible to support their sisters, their friends who are female, in this journey of menstruation?
I think you is as early as possible is okay. Because while you're learning still about different aspects of life, you can still be learning about this situation, especially if you have a mom in the house or a sister. Your everyday is still connected to that. So if they're still seeing that or you're still talking about it, have that conversation with them. Let them know what's going on. I mean, don't hide it and make it something that you're only talking to even the girl child about. Talk to the son about that too as well. Make them understand your sister is going to be going through this. Eventually, your wife is going to be going through this. Teach them that they need to be responsible for even providing products, being aware or being available when that happens. It's just like cooking. Teach them young, so when they grow up.
They would know. I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. Relationship is key, creating the right environment, and of course, style of communication. All right, so before I let you go, what are the take homes from this book?
It's just like, please just have that conversation. Even if you're not a single dad and a teenage girl, have that conversation. Just be able to talk about periods. Know that it's not a big taboo subject. It's something that's going to be happening in a woman's life for a long time. It's just a natural part of every day. And then also, if you are a single dad, make sure that you are able, or even just a dad period of a child, of a girl child, have that conversation with them. Be able to not just put that off on another, your wife, your another female, or auntie. Be able to still have that conversation.
So for a young girl who is watching you right now, let's talk about hygiene. how best can they take care of themselves during this period?
You just make sure that you have something that you're always changing a pad. You're not just wearing it for a long period of time. Tampons also, you're not keeping it for longer than it needs to be inside. You want to make sure that you're cleaning yourself in between. You also, if you have any overflow or anything like that, make sure you just kind of clean up your, wash your clothes, something like that happens. Just make sure that it's clean things that you're using and not just reusing dirty clothes, dirty cloths, or anything like that. That's just main.
Thank you so much. If it's a conversation, we can go on and on, especially when you talk about hygiene for menstrual for young girls during this period. It's a big deal because in most developing countries, we have situations where some of them don't have access to pad, and even when they do, sometimes not enough. And we also have cases where young girls have to be in a very compromising situation because they don't have enough money to be able to get the pad. When that happens, we see issues about teens pregnancies and other vices that have come up simply because young girls couldn't have access to it. And of course, we have the issue of health hazards, when they don't know that they have to change, or they use the cloth and they don't know how to wash and keep clean. And some of them at that age begin to have infections that follow them up to adulthood and begin to give them a lot of problems. So I want to say a very big thank you to you for standing up to see that book comes to existence, and looking at this area that people don't even talk about. Mothers find it difficult. They talk about fathers having to be in that space, But what is more key is the fact that they are having the right information that they need to have the conversation with their daughters, from what from what you've offered through the period passport. So thank you so much, and I want to wish you all the best. I don't know if you have a very last word to say to someone about how to get the book, and what else they need to know about getting that conversation on menstruation.
Thank you so much for inviting me on. I really appreciate this. Like I said, a very important issue to get out there, a conversation that needs to get started with everyone. You can get the book on Amazon.com. You can get it on Barnes and Noble's different platforms. It does come in audiobook, regular paperback, as well as hardcover. And then you're also able to see it on Sanical.shop as well. If you go on there, that's the company publishing the book. There's also subscription boxes that you're able to get as well. So you're able to get all of your needs for that month.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being in that space and for being in our space on Total Woman. I'm sure that we'll be able to have this conversation more, and as you progress, we'll be able to work with you on that right here in Africa, in Nigeria. All right. So thank you very much for being my guest on the show today.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All right, great. Thank you very much for being our guest on the show today. See, having the right information is important, but conveying that right information properly is even more important. This is because comprehension is the key to knowledge. Using user-friendly interactive outlook like what is contained in the passport period would make it easy and less embarrassing to deal with the issue of menstruation, especially for fathers who are parenting adolescent girls. So, you learned something today? Let's go bridge the gap and let the conversation continue. My name is Muti Olori. I'll be with you again next week. Bye-bye.